Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill that targets the LGBTQ plus community. And right-wingers at home apparently love it. So first, let me get into the details of what happened. So the bill that was signed into law by Vladimir Putin expands a ban on so-called LGBTQ propaganda in Russia, making it illegal for anyone to promote same-sex relationships or suggest that non-heterosexual orientations are normal. So literally, they're banning people from even mentioning gay people or trans people or any member of that community. That's horrifying. The new laws also make it illegal to promote or praise LGBTQ relationships, publicly express non-heterosexual orientations, or suggest that they are normal. They also ban any LGBTQ content from being posted across the internet, media, books, audiovisual services, cinema, and advertising. I mean, that sounds a lot like censorship right there. Now, in case you're wondering who the Nazis are or where they are, well, right now they seem to be in Russia. And aside from the Azov battalion, not really in Ukraine. Now, look, again, Putin is far right. The far right hates LGBTQ plus people and want them erased from existence. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're driving mentions of gay and trans people out of the conversation, out of life itself. They're driving them underground, erasing them from existence. So now, this law also significantly broadens the scope of a previous law in 2013, which banned the dissemination of LGBTQ-related information to minors. So understand, back in 2013, they said, well, look, we got to protect the children. We got to protect the children. So obviously, we cannot have discussions of gay and trans people, LGBTQ issues in schools. You know, because we got to protect the children. We might have groomers, that are either grooming or they're confusing children. We don't want that to happen. That's what they said back in Russia in 2013. The new iteration then expands that ban on promoting that information to adults, which is exactly the kind of escalation that we knew was going to happen. They start with, oh, we're just trying to protect the children's. Now, I guess we got to protect everybody. We just got to ban it outright. That's what they're doing here. So understand the situation. Now, how's it relevant to the United States? Well, I mean, if you've noticed, a lot of the conversation in the far right is, oh, we have to protect children from LGBTQ. We got to protect them from the trans ideology. They're already, in Florida, they've already banned mentions of LGBTQIA plus people in schools to minors. Now, they said in Florida, of course, when the left criticized that so-called Don't Say Gay bill, they said, well, come on, that's not actually what it is. And besides, we don't actually hate gay people. No. We don't want to confuse their children. You see, we don't want to expose them to the pronouns, and we don't want to sexualize them. We want them to be kids. Just let the kids be kids. First of all, telling someone of the existence of LGBTQ plus people is not sexualizing them. It's not sexual in nature orientation. It's their identity. It's who they are. That said, here's what Steven Crowder is saying about what they're doing in Russia, which really tips their hand and shows you what they want to do here in the United States.
So under the new law, individuals can be fined over $6,000 for what they refer to as LGBT propaganda, over $3,000 for demonstrations of LGBT causes, information that encourages a change of gender among teenagers. So here's the thing. Some of that seems fair.
Right.
And if we put that into effect here, we could just basically eliminate the national debt just from the fines to Disney.
It's true. True story.
So you can comment below on what you think about this, and if you can at least understand where they're coming from. Of course, I don't think that anyone should be punished just for being gay. Of course, I believe that everyone should have equal rights here in this country. I don't believe that marriage is a fundamental human right, but I believe in civil unions, and that's always been my position. But I certainly don't think that someone should be arrested for being gay, someone should be mistreated for being gay, someone should not enjoy the same rights as everyone else. But I do understand them right now trying to safeguard when they look in the United States and they see children being put on puberty blockers, when they see hypersexualized issues being taught to children ages kindergarten through third grade. And you'll hear some people say, this is a boogeyman argument. I hear people from the left saying, no, it's not a boogeyman argument. It's not a what if. It's not a slippery slope argument. There had to be legislation proposed to stop it because of the policy of the entire DNC, to be clear. So I understand this reaction. Might be an overreaction from Russia, but you also have to understand, like with Brittany Griner, they don't share your values.
No.
They don't see a bunch of guys with leather chokers on floats having sex in the streets of San Francisco as something they want in Russia. And by the way, I would say that that's our best export as the United States.
I mean, it seems fair, why they're doing it. I understand why they're doing it. I mean, I don't, of course, I don't agree. I don't think you should be arrested or anything like that. But, I see why they're doing it. I know why they're doing it. I mean, people with leather chokers, you don't want them having sex in the street in California, or hypersexualizing children. Well, goodness, because that's not what's happening. Nobody's having sex in the street with leather chokers. Although, even that's oddly specific. Why would you come up with that? Is that it? Is that in your mind? Hey, look, I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of
Sexual anarchy.
But, on the street, I don't know why we would think with that about that. I don't know why your brain would go there. I don't understand. Well, then again, it is Steven Crowder. He does like to dress up as a woman now and then. Not that, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He just really likes to do it. Okay, hey, do you, man? Do you? But then again, going seriously back to the serious point here, he says what they're doing in Russia, it sounds fair. And some of it sounds fair. Doing massive fines to people for doing what they call gay propaganda. What happens if you don't pay the fine in Russia? By the way, as one of you points out, in the chat, maybe it's a way for Putin to raise money. That's, again, an interesting point. That could be part of the reason. And again, it also does show you how horrible of a bigot, he is, and the government is, in order to target this group of people that are already massively targeted in Russia and in places all over the world. And to try to target them to extract money for his disastrously failed war, it's just another, just adding on to the despicable things that Putin has done. That said, right? What happens if you don't pay the fine? Probably going to go to prison. I mean, at least that was probably what would happen in America. Because I don't know if you remember the story a few days ago. There was an elderly black woman who went to jail for not paying a $77 trash bill. And then, of course, that, went to the court. Court put out a warrant for her arrest, and they arrested her. And by the way, going to, anti-LGBTQ laws that have been passed in this country, look, you have states like Texas that have passed laws, and they're threatening to lock up parents of transgender children for child abuse. Just for doing gender-affirming care, which in the case of children involves social transition. They're not out there, getting bottom surgery when they're 6 years old, okay? That's not what's happening. Gender-affirming care, when it comes to a minor, is things like changing your name, using the pronouns, being able to dress the way that you want to dress, that aligns with your gender. That's it. That's the social transition. So growing out your hair long, or in the case of, somebody being a trans man, cutting your hair short, wearing boy clothes. That's what's going on here. And it's not just in Texas. By July of this year, it had been recorded that 162 anti-LGBTQ bills had been introduced in states all over the country. And they range from banning trans girls in sports, which most places don't even have any trans students in it. Remember, one state decided they were going to pass a trans ban, even though they have no transgender students in their school whatsoever. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a problem it's a solution in search of a problem. That's what's going on. And so, again, 162 anti-LGBTQ bills, ranging from that, bathroom bills, to then also doing what they're doing in Florida, which is banning any mention of LGBTQ people in schools, in education. And what they're doing, or I should say what they've done in Russia, is exactly the next step. It's what people like Crowder eventually want to happen. And he shows us that, from by lying, and then justifying, trying to defend Russia in passing these laws by pointing out examples that don't exist. Steven Crowder, we know who you are. You're a sick person. You hate freedom. You don't actually care about the children, and especially trans children, who, in the policies and things that Steven Crowder supports and the rhetoric that he puts out in the world, actually gets trans children killed.